The Clown Motel, located between Vegas and Reno on North Main Street in Nevada, claims to be the most terrifying motel in the U.S. Clowns, ghosts, and cemeteries. Oh my. Which is worse? How about all three just rolled into one big happy ball? Tonopah used to be a booming town with a lot of excitement going around. But its excitement died due to typical highs and lows that most mining camps experienced in those days. Today, the town only has about 1,200 residents, and not all of them are as lively as we've come to hope. Tonopah came to light by let's just say a kind of funny story involving a donkey. The donkey was led by Jim Butler. The animal found shelter in a rock outcropping where Butler ended up picking up a rock when he then noticed it was extremely heavy for its size. And, Butler soon found out that the rock came from the second richest silver strike in Nevada's history. Not long after he discovered the rock, Butler then began to mine in the area. To even begin to understand the history and hauntings of the Clown Motel, I'm going to start by talking about the history of the town and what caused this land to become so terrifyingly haunted. Tonopah Cemetery was founded in May of 1901. Its very first burial was John Randall Weeks. It remained an active burial ground until the spring of 1911, when the number of bodies outgrew the small plot. Approximately, there is about 300 people buried in the cemetery, including some of the town's original residents, although most of the people that lay to rest in the cemetery fell victim to the mysterious Tonopah Plague of 1902. Here is an article I found from LA Herald from 1905. It is not the Black Plague, nor any other kind of plague. It is simply an acute pneumonia of a severe type. The sickness is believed to be due to the lack of sanitary conditions. The disease, strangely enough, only attacks grown men. Shockingly, the horrors and haunts didn't start with the cemetery as many would think. The so-called curse didn't come to surface until February 23, 1911, when the Tonopah Belmont mine fire struck, taking the lives of 17 mine workers. With the way the mine was constructed, there lies two shafts, one going up and the other going down. The fire was noted around 5:50 a.m., and after an hour of searching for it, they noticed a fire burning some timber that had been piled near the bottom of the mine shaft. A small candle was thought to be the blame for the fire. When the fire was first discovered, the superintendent of the time told everyone to ignore it and go back to work, since the fire was in a separate location. Ain't no wonder it's haunted. Most of the miners protested, but the threat of being fired was enough for most of them to push even deeper into the mines that day. After a few hours, the superintendent noticed that the flames was spreading faster and faster. Then, only then, were the men told to get out of the mines, besides the ones actively fighting the fire. Untrained men was scattered everywhere, disobeying orders from left to right, which resulted in many of them being trapped in the mine while in the midst of the smoke and flames. Due to the poorly setup at the mine, A reversal of Sir currents through the mine spread the blaze faster than the miners was able to escape. 14 of the men that passed that day are now buried at the Tonopah Cemetery. Now, at this point, you're thinking, what does an old mine that caught fire have to do with the Clown Motel? Right. Well, right next door to the cemetery, you'll be met with the most strange and oddly horrifying sights in the Clown Motel, built a stone's throw away from an old graveyard filled with bodies of a tragic past, has a plethora of glassy-eyed circus clowns, its owners swearing to guests who stumble in that it's a fun and safe place to rest for the night. Leona and Leroy Davis built this motel back in 1985. They built the motel in honor of their father, Clarence Davis, who had an impressive collection of over 150 clowns when he sadly passed away. Clarence had also been buried in the old Tonopah Cemetery. His children wanted to build the motel next to the graveyard as a way to display their father's collection and build onto it. While fear wasn't the initial intent when the motel was built, it quickly gained a reputation of being a haunted destination. The Clown Motel was sold a few times, but each owner maintained the motel's unique clown theme. The Clown Motel is the only place to rest on a long, hot, unbroken road of the Nevada desert. It's almost as if the watchful peepers of the circus creepers serve as a warning rather than an invite to come inside and stay a while. How else could this creepy motel have stayed in business for so long? From the second you step foot into the motel, you are greeted with hundreds of clowns, ranging from small to big, from cute to what the... Once you get past the office after check-in, you may notice an arch hanging over the cemetery entrance. Just beyond this is the centuries-old miner's graveyard, made of stone and wooden markers. It's exactly what you would picture an old spooky cemetery to be like. Visitors of the Clown Motel claim that it's not only creepy, but it's most definitely, without a doubt, haunted. Legend has it that the clown statues throughout the motel act as a vessel for the lost souls of the miners, that they possess the dolls and come back to life. Apparitions have been seen walking to and from the graveyard, and disembodied voices have also been recorded, stating, "We mined, and we died that day." So, if we were to go far enough back in history, the Pueblo Native Americans used to dress in clown costumes, releasing their own personalities and welcoming possessions of nearby spirits. With the identities always changing, it allowed portals into the spirit world. Even the motel's owner states that he hears footsteps and knocking from unoccupied rooms of the motel. The Clown Motel was decorated in, well, nothing but clown stuff, up until B.J. Mohair purchased the property in April 2019. After his experience working in hotels in Doha, Canada, and Australia, he decided to try his hand at running a different type of destination. Mohair gave the motel a facelift after purchasing it with revamped polka dot exteriors, 2 19-foot-tall Jolly Clown cutouts, and themed rooms based on popular horror films like The Exorcist, It, Halloween and Friday the 13th. Clearly, he leaned into making the Clown Motel the creepiest place in America. Mohair also added a gazebo right next to the cemetery so tourists can rest and host parties, birthdays, and even wedding celebrations before returning to their rooms at the Clown Motel. Apparitions of a man have also been reported leaving the cemetery and walking around the property at all hours of the night. When one of the previous owners attempted to make contact with the spirit, he froze and promptly vanished. Even creepier, clowns themselves have been seen leaving the cemetery carrying balloons and all. So, the cemetery ain't the only place where ghosts have been seen. The motel is the home to a lot of spirits itself. Here are some of the stories of the spirits that roam the rooms of the Clown Motel. Room 108 is considered one of the most active spots in the motel, with visitors reporting things going missing, disembodied voices, and items even being moved or misplaced in the room. All the thanks can go to the trickster. The spirit is seen coming from the cemetery, taking the form of a clown to mess around with the visitors to the motel. Other guests have reported seeing a near 7-foot tall clown standing at the foot of their bed while they wake up in a cold sweat. Some report nothing at all during their stay, while others refuse to even come back inside to get their belongings after their very brief night there. Story has it that an elderly man who regularly worked at the Clown Motel's front counter decided to spend the night in one of the rooms. He wasn't feeling well during his stay, but when he called the front desk, his co-worker didn't answer. So the man called his sister for help, and she called 911 for him. Sadly, it was too late. The man passed on the way to the hospital. When the front desk worker was asked about the situation, they claimed that the front desk phone never rang. Sure enough, the surveillance footage showed that the phone never rang, as if something had been stopping the victim from calling for help. The room has since been decorated after the film It, as if to represent the mischievous apparitions that messed with the phone lines that night. Room 111. A terminally ill man once stayed in this room, knowing he only had a few days left to live. The man didn't want his passing to be such a burden on his family, so every night he went to sleep expecting not to wake up the next day. But he kept waking up again and again, claiming that every morning he saw a shadowy figure in his room, and he begged the ghost to take his life. When nothing happened, he later shot himself in the parking lot after getting extremely frustrated with the ghost. The room is currently based on the horror film The Exorcist, and many guests have talked about seeing ghostly figures in the room, just like the dying man had described. Room 210. A man stopped to stay the night after experiencing some extreme back pain. He had faced the pain on and off his entire life, but he never got a proper diagnosis. When he woke up that morning, he felt more comfortable than he had in a long time. He believed the spirits in the room had cured his back pain to the point he lived at the motel for 6 years until his passing by natural causing. This room is currently decorated after the Halloween films. However, despite the creepy decor, many guests prefer this room overall because the story of the spirits is positive unlock the others. Room 214. Melvin Dunbar, an associate of billionaire Howard Hughes, stayed in this room for about 3 years. People believed that a ghost in the room grew fond of Dunbar and was devastated when he left. Visitors claim that the ghost often returns to look for his friend, and if he doesn't find him, well, he then starts playing tricks on the guest, like flickering the lights, causing a huge mess, and stealing items. This room is now the Friday the 13th theme. Can we at least have some music with the flickering lights, dudes? So, the question is, do you believe the Clown Motel is haunted? Comment below and tell me what your thoughts are and what you may like to hear about next. Also, don't forget to tap that like and subscribe button below. It helps me out a lot. Always remember, be nice, no negativity allowed here. And thank you all for watching. Now back to the story. On the Clown Motel's website, they include a disclaimer saying that many people have experienced unexplained phenomena during their stays. So it's likely that this establishment is haunted. The business also states that they are not liable for any damage or distress paranormal creatures may cause. There have been many reports of ghost sightings at the motel, especially in the rooms I've already mentioned. Some experiences included knocks on doors and footsteps in their rooms, or even at the graveyard next door. A few guests have even reported seeing a clown figure in the lobby move, while some have claimed to see a clown figure appear in their room and then disappear out of thin air, leaving them awake and horrified. The Haunted Clown Motel is happy to let guests explore the property at night and record their experiences. Many ghost investigators have visited the Clown Motel, finding themselves in a strange and creepy, not so worldly environment. Shadow figures are common, and the area continues to be rich with history and overflowing with spirits.
All of this research was found on the internet, so don't come at me with your negative comments. Take it to Google.